Hey up everyone, in this video we will be checking out the Viltrox 33mm f1.4 AF, which is a fast prime lens that can be used for both photo and video purposes on Fujifilm X mount cameras, alongside some other mount options like Sony E and Nikon. Viltrox has been making some awesome lenses lately, and it's worth checking out their website as they are also releasing a lot of video-centric primes that really strike one's interest. It has an APS-C image circle, which means it does not cover a full-frame sensor. As this is a 33mm on an APS-C sensor, is equivalent to a 50mm lens on a full-frame camera, which is considered a standard or normal focal length, equivalent to the human eye. This is of course in terms of compression, not in terms of framing. I find it especially handy for this overhead rig, which is what I usually use it for. However, it lends itself very well to other use cases, and it's slowly becoming a daily driver. This product is one of the most affordable lenses in its class, costing less than $300 at the time of this review. To view the most up-to-date prices, you can click the links in the description below. This review is completely independent. I have no obligations to any entity. However, I strongly recommend that you check out other reviews to get the most comprehensive view of the product. The aperture range of this lens is f1.4 to f16. The wide aperture allows for low light shooting, shallow depth of field, and smooth bokeh. It also has a dedicated aperture ring that can be set to auto or manual mode. Now, in terms of build and design, I bought these as a set with the 23mm and 56mm alongside this one, and they are all built exactly the same with a solid metal construction, not only in the lens bodies, but also the lens hoods, which feel very sturdy and premium. It has a sleek and minimalist design and weighs 270 grams, which is relatively light for its size and speed. The ergonomics and handling are decent. They balance well on Fuji bodies and offer this large and smooth focus ring that is electronically coupled to the autofocus system. The aperture ring is also smooth and stepless, which would have been useful for video shooting if the iris didn't jump to the designated apertures, completely nullifying the declicked nature of this lens. The aperture ring also does not have a lock at the auto position, which may cause accidental changes. I personally don't mind the declicked ring, but I would have loved for it to actually be able to change the aperture gradually, as this would make it a perfect setup for video. It comes with a metal lens hood, which is petal-shaped and reversible for storage. The hood helps to reduce flare and protect the front element from impacts. It fits securely on the lens. Now, in terms of impacts, I have read a lot of reviews online that said the lens broke after dropping it once. This is most likely due to the metal hoods, as they don't absorb those impacts nearly as well as plastic ones. It also comes with front and rear lens caps, as well as a soft pouch for carrying. The minimum focus distance of this lens is 0.4 meters, which is decent but not very close. It has a quiet autofocus system, driven by a linear stepping motor. As you can see, it is rather slow. The autofocus performance is generally good in most situations. However, it does occasionally suffer from hunting or inconsistency in low light or low contrast scenes, and that's definitely noticeable when comparing it to Fuji XF lenses. The manual focus performance is also good, with a responsive and precise focus ring. It is fly-by-wire, meaning the ring activates the stepping motor and is not directly connected to the lens. The focus ring has a linear response, which means the focus distance changes proportionally to the rotation angle of the ring. This makes manual focusing easier and more intuitive than some other lenses that have a non-linear response, yet there are not hard stops in place, which I personally don't mind too much, but it may be something to consider. It has some noticeable lens breathing, which means the angle of view changes slightly when focusing from near to far or vice versa. This may not be an issue for still photography, but it can be distracting for video shooting, especially when using focus pulls or rack focuses. Of course, as always, we see these characteristics as flaws, which have been eliminated on only the most expensive of lenses like the RE signature primes. However, it can always be used in creative manners to enhance the story you wish to tell. Let's jump into the optical performance. All the testing was done on my Fuji X-H2S with in-camera corrections turned off. At f1.4, The image is a little soft in the center, and the corners are pretty bad as we have some chromatic aberration. Stopping down to f2.8 and we see a big improvement in center sharpness, but the corners are still a little soft. Stopping down to f4.0 and the center is very good. However, the corners are still a little misty. Stopping down again to f5.6 and the center sharpness is still very good, with minimal improvement there. The corner sharpness has also improved a tad. Stopping down to f8 and in the center we have very good sharpness with the corners improving as well, but still not quite as good as you'd expect. At f11 we see some diffraction creeping in already, which is surprising as this usually only happens at f16. The corners also suffer from this diffraction, so watch out for this. At f16 that diffraction becomes quite heavy and we see some chromatic aberration creeping in the corners. Surprisingly, the corners seem a little sharper, but because of that diffraction it's less sharp, if you catch my drift. Stopping down to f22 and the image is very soft as this diffraction becomes very heavy. And overall, the contrast in the image has degraded. Looking at the aberrations, we see a tad bit of vignetting in the corners, which does disappear at f4.0 alongside some pretty heavy pincushion distortions, although this can of course be corrected in post and is nothing to really worry about. In terms of chromatic aberrations, however, the lens performs rather poorly. Comparing it to the 18-55 from Fuji, it's quite noticeable that the chromatic aberration is not well controlled. Looking at the bokeh that this lens produces at f1.4, I really enjoy the image it produces. It has some amount of character to it, yet the background is not too distracting. I would really love for lens manufacturers to start working with shims so we can dial in our preferred look. This lens does not have any built-in image stabilization, which means it relies on the camera body's image stabilization system if available. As you can see, it does a good job of removing some micro jitters, making it quite suitable for handheld video work. There's no annoying corner wobble, which is something you might see with wider angle lenses. So overall, I've been really enjoying this set, and it's something that can really elevate your video work. You'll be able to make well thought through choices about the look you wish to have in your image for the price of a single zoom lens, while offering that f1.4 aperture that you won't be able to get on a standard zoom just yet. I can highly recommend it for beginners, and it may even be a better starting point than those standard zooms, as it will teach you more about compression and framing. I hope this video provided you with some value. If you enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe or hit the like button. If you're interested, I have a bunch of other YouTube channels in many different niches, most of which can be found on my homepage. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.